Hi there, welcome to Apple World. The Steve Harvey show just got considerably more crazy since his natural children simply exposed him for being a miscreant. I didn't actually have my father full-time in my life until I was 16. Right. Things have been exceptionally unpleasant for Mr. Steve Harvey in recent weeks. However, it just so happens that the bits of gossip about Marjorie undermining him weren't the most terrible of them. His four natural children are presently making some noise and uncovering Marjorie for forcing Steve to pick her over his own children. What's more, therefore, Steve has been a loser father to them. Presently, there is a ton to unload in this entire show, but you all will have a hard time believing the receipts that they brought. One night in Memphis, when me and Marjorie originally got together, we purchased every one of the children together, each of them 7, and every one of the young ladies went bowling and returned and concluded they didn't maintain that we should get hitched, and said they don't believe it's the proper thing to do. No doubt, each and every time that we assume we have heard the last show about Steve Harvey and his muddled circumstances happening with his family, something different comes up to show us that the family is much more screwed up than we knew. Furthermore, with these new claims that have become exposed in regards to the manner in which he treated his own natural children, tune in. We should simply say that they won't designate him for a Dad of the Year grant at any point in the near future or ever. Yet, as per an insider, the show happening in the Harvey family isn't simply an untidy battle about cash, a legacy, or any such thing. All in all, I'm certain that the cash likewise plays a huge part in the show. In any case, the insider guarantees that the main problem here is that Steve's 4 organic youngsters have felt disliked by Steve for a really long time, while they watched him empty all of his adoration into Marjorie and her children. Presently, individuals have consistently discussed how praiseworthy it was that Steve decided to cherish Marjorie's children like they were his own.
Yet, it just so happens that his natural children feel like he cherishes Marjorie's children, similar to how they are his main children. What's more, it's not difficult to see the reason why they would have this impression, on the grounds that Steve truly behaves like Marjorie's children are his main children that he's at any point had. Presently, this has caused a ton of issues among Steve and his youngsters, particularly on the grounds that he dealt with his own children like poo. Furthermore, I'm not simply discussing something similar to deserting. Indeed, he deserted them. Yet the ones who were just deserted were fortunate ones since his subsequent child, Winton, was not deserted by Steve, and he had it way more terrible than the 3 children who got deserted. Steve was hitched twice before he got hitched to Marjorie, and the 2 relationships were calamities. His most memorable spouse was Marcia Harvey, and she is the mother of his initial 3 children, Brandy, Carly, and Broderick. Steve began chasing after his subsequent spouse, Mary, when Broderick was as yet a baby, yet he didn't let Mary know that he was a married man. He was at that point a non-attendant dad in the existence of his initial 3 children when he separated from their mother and got hitched to Mary. Presently, many individuals don't have the foggiest idea about this. Yet Mary was the person who assisted Steve with building his parody vocation. She, in a real sense, put her entire life's reserve funds into assisting him with setting up his parody vocation so he could get more cash flow. He was battling all the while by then. Furthermore, it was the point at which he was performing at a satire club where Marjorie was in attendance. Steve spied Marjorie out in the group, and he quickly experienced passionate feelings for her. He attempted to take a few actions against her, but she turned him down since he wasn't rich enough for her. Gracious, and they were both hitched at that point. However, I don't feel that made a difference, particularly to Steve on the grounds that he even conceded that he had betrayed his initial 2 spouses a great deal. He said Marjorie altered the manner in which I existed. I'd never been in a mature relationship. I'd never been faithful. I'd never been completely respected. All things considered, he hit it big in Hollywood, made a ton of cash, and wound up unloading Mary. Who could have imagined? He began dating Marjorie a couple of months after the fact. He asserted that his protector had been the person who set them up together, saying, "Goodness," he told me. "Look, the possibly only time I've at any point seen you cheerful was the point at which you were with that lady, Marjorie. Presently, before you proceed to accomplish something idiotic and wed another lady, I'm calling it, it was like being renewed. I screwed up so often in my life. She had a significant effect. When you're cheerful at home, you can get a lot of things going." And keeping in mind that he was around here playing loverboy with Marjorie, he fundamentally overlooked his initial 3 children, and it got downright horrendous. As a matter of fact, there are reports that he didn't actually go to the secondary school graduation of his twins. Somebody who realized the twins were in secondary school made this disclosure, saying, "I went to class with the twins. They were a couple of years in front of me, yet individuals generally talked, and everyone was focused on them as a result of who their dad was. He was absent at their graduation. Presently, you all don't have the foggiest idea about the conditions, which are super miserable. Yet, that is not all. As indicated by Broderick, Steve was likewise missing from his life for his initial 16 years. I didn't actually have my father full-time in my life until I was 16. Isn't that so? No doubt. It's extremely miserable. However terrible that seems to be, the children who were overlooked were kind. Had it great since he didn't disregard his child with Winton. What's more, tune in when I tell you all that Winton had the most awful of the initial three. On the off chance that you were asking why Winton didn't get overlooked, indeed, as indicated by Winton himself, he supposedly accepts that this is on the grounds that Steve was attempting to rebuff his mother by utilizing their child. For the people who don't have the foggiest idea, Steve's separation from Mary was chaotic, and it appears as though he was utilizing Winton to get back at her. As per Mary, Steve used to put his hands on Winton, if you all understand what I mean. What's more, everything began around the time he began dating Marjorie. Presently, I'm not saying that Marjorie has something to do with Steve putting hands on his child. However, Mary purportedly accepts that Marjorie was attempting to drive Winton and Steve considerably further apart. Supposedly, Steve got so harmful towards Winton that the police needed to get involved eventually. TMZ even detailed it, expressing that, as per the youngster, Steve hit him with a belt and afterward a paddleboard, the sort utilized for preliminary in societies. As indicated by the police report, cops took photographs of the kid's wounds, showing wounds on his hindquarters and right thigh, as well as cuts on his leg. The police report says the kid told cops the beating was so severe that he experienced difficulty peeing for a really long time. The case was examined by CPS, obviously, however. It was at last dropped. So when I said the children who were disregarded had it better, I wasn't kidding. Presently, I'm making an effort not to say that Steve doesn't cherish his kids since he appears to think often about them. However, as per Brandy and Carly, Marjorie supposedly clarified that she must be Steve's main need. Furthermore, Steve likely interpreted that as meaning that she needed to precede his children and was glad. Furthermore, exactly how could he show her that she was his main? Indeed, he chose to adore her children, as he didn't cherish his own to begin with. He embraced every one of the three of her children and gave them his last name, which didn't sound right to the vast majority. This is on the grounds that her initial two children, Morgan and Jason, were at that point adults. At that point, there was no great explanation for them to be taken on, yet Marjorie believed her children should have the Harvey name since she realized that it would open a ton of doors for them. In addition, she likewise needed to remove them from the way that their dads were street pharmacists, and the Harvey last name was the most ideal way for her to do that. Steve didn't stop at giving him his last name since he additionally gave them special treatment. He particularly spoiled Lori, and they often went on dates. He was on one of our yearly dad-girl dates, and my #1 Japanese calf. Also, you recently began conversing with me about folks, and you just let me know that you generally upheld me and that you'd continuously show up for me regardless of anything else. Also, you adored me. His supposed particular treatment of Lori and Marjorie's children, by and large, has caused a major issue in the family. What's more, an insider said he made the best choice by embracing Marjorie's children and loving them like his own. However, there's a great deal of discord among the mixed Harvey tribe. There has sadly been some desire among the kin for Lori, who's the most well-known of every one of Steve's children, to assume control over the spotlight with her high-profile love life. In any case, you all, it gets genuinely awful when you understand that Steve's girls beseeched him not to wed Marjorie one night in Memphis. When me and Marjorie originally got together, we purchased every one of the children together, each of them 7, and every one of the young ladies went bowling and returned and concluded they didn't believe we should get hitched and said they don't believe it's the correct thing to do. In any case, he didn't pay attention to them since he was the one taking care of their bills, and didn't believe that their perspectives made a difference. You all ain't got a relationship, steady employment, or vocation. I'm paying for universities, and I don't have any idea how I'm paying attention to you all making certain choices. You all ain't got one bow that didn't work up to this point, so I don't have any idea how to hear you take steps to let me know how to live. My children were around there. Cool with it. No doubt. It genuinely doesn't seem like he enjoys his children so much. So who can fault them for feeling this way about Marjorie and her children? In any case, despite the fact that they could do without Marjorie so much, they need to take their L's in harmony on the grounds that Steve will have it no other way. Presently, we as a whole had a slight idea of what was happening in the Harvey family. However, these new disclosures are simply insane. Fans have come and said, amazing, so miserable. Steve dealt with another person's children while missing the existence of his own.